Okay, ladies and gentlemen, can we have a little bit of hush? Bit of hush. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all here to Bry and Jeremy's reception. I think you'll all agree the barn looks fantastic, doesn't it? Now, the father of the bride's job really is obviously to talk about the bride, but just want to clarify something before I get underway, because although I'm going to talk about Bryony Few...
You're not the father then?
Is that what I said? No. Before I'm going to talk about Bryony Few, we have the Fews, maybe called the Fews, but there's actually quite a few Fews, including, as you may have already spotted, another Bryony Few. Where are you? There you are. Now, listen, just to get over any future litigation or anything over this speech, I just want you to realise that everything I'm going to talk about is in connection with this Bryony Few, okay? Your day will come in September, I believe. Yeah. And very well read, by the way, in the church. Fantastic. So perhaps what I ought to do is call Bryony Squidge, really. Debbie and I have always called her Squidge simply because as a child she was a real squidgy squirmer. She would never sit still. Pick her up and she would be looking over your shoulder at what's going on and wanting to get down to get underway with some project that she had. She's always been a projects person. So Squidge stuck, and we still call her that more than Bryony probably. Talking of projects, Bryony was always underway with something when she was young. From about the age of 8, she decided that she was going to set up a market stall for the first time. So the whole week would be spent making perfumes out of petals, cooking cookies and rock cakes, which lived up to their name, I have to say, and creating artistic work and jewellery and all sorts of things. And then come Sunday morning, she would set up her stall. And the reason she chose Sunday mornings is that we used to get people walking past our house, this is when we lived in Cheriton, to go to either church or to buy the Sunday papers, or both. And there was a steady stream of people going by. And I have to say, the villagers were fantastic. They used to buy things off her stall for vast sums of money, and then probably go around the corner and chuck them, because they really weren't of a great quality. But the trouble is, because she was so successful, she kept setting that stall up every Sunday. And so after a while, church attendance began to dip, and the sales of newspapers just plummeted in the shop. So, although they were good, it only lasted for a while. So it actually became a sort of, Cheriton became a bit of a sort of Belfast, really, a sort of divided city. Those from the east really didn't attend church and were really sort of not that together with world goings-on, because they never bought a paper. Whereas the lot from the west all went to church and were quite up to speed with things. She also used to love to put shows on. And, of course, that used to include her brother, Sam. Now, Sam is one of the most good-natured, laid-back, lovely people you will ever meet. However, even he could get to a breaking point. And Debbie and I used to sit in earshot and hear Bryony ticking him off because she'd sent him on an errand and he'd brought back the wrong thing. Or indeed he wouldn't put on the floral hat she'd got for him in the park. And so there used to be a massive row, inevitably, and then slamming doors, and he would have gone up upstairs. So actually we never got to see many of these shows because one of the key people went missing. But anyway, that was another thing she used to do a lot of. Then as she grew on up, she got involved with the school First Challenge, and this is where you have to raise your own money to go abroad. And so the first time she did it, she had to raise £1,000, and they went off to Turkey. She absolutely adored it. So now, come sort of 16 years old, that she could go to the next one, which was World Challenge, which was raising £3,000 to go to Vietnam, Cambodia and Thailand. Now, Bryony being Bryony, we had skydives, we had car boot sales, sponsored walks, and, yep, you've got it, the market stall came back out again. This time, been a bit more grown up and older and wiser, and actually the cooking was a lot better at this stage, she took the market stall down onto the village green and caught everybody coming out of church on a Sunday morning. And of course sold out with her selling skills, which was great. So I don't know whether you spotted it today, you probably didn't, but I was acutely aware of it, that there was the odd villager who wandered round the corner onto the green today, saw Bryony standing at the church entrance with a plate with some cakes on it, and literally they dived into the shrubbery to hide, to get out of her way. So she's well known in the village, let's put it like that. So Bryony is not one to dither, normally. However, when it came to what to read at university, dearie, dearie me, she dithered quite a bit. To start with, she wanted to read marketing. So we jumped in the car with many of her friends, and we probably visited half the universities in England, and Wales, should I say. And then the AS results came out. And believe it or not, Bryony was doing IT. She got the highest AS result in the whole country for IT. So we looked at her and said, shouldn't you be reading IT at university? So she said, yeah, okay, probably should do. So it's very strange that the universities that do marketing don't seem to do IT. So we jumped into the car with lots of her friends and did the other universities that we hadn't already done. So I could have written a book on the father's view of universities. And as you all know, she then went on to Cardiff University. We have quite a contingent from Cardiff today. Whereupon she did read IT, and clever girl, she got a first-class honours degree. Now, I've often wondered where she got this ability to do maths and IT and everything, because I'm sure Debbie won't mind me saying, but both she and I never actually managed maths O-level. We are really not good at it. But one of the things I vaguely remember, I didn't understand it at the time, but I remembered a mathematical rule that was taught to me. And it then all became clear that a minus times a minus makes a plus. And it all became clear. Simples. Now, of course, at Cardiff, which she absolutely adored, she joined the diving club. And diving became a very important part of her life. She absolutely adores it. And again, Bryony being Bryony, she didn't just become a qualified diver, she went on and she's a qualified diving instructor. So another thing that she excelled at. But what she also did was she became the treasurer in her first year of the diving club. Jeremy, take note. She always seems to like to keep hold of the purse strings, doesn't she? And then in the second year, she actually was in charge of the diving club. And it was also her job to organise the annual weekly trip to Falmouth. And again, Bryony being Bryony, she just realised that in the year before when she was down there, that was Swansea University was also down there. So what did she do? She contacted Swansea Diving Club and said, look, why don't we amalgamate everything together? We could buy the rigs and the oxygen and everything, and we'd get a much better deal on it. So, of course, she did, and they all went down there and had a great week, and it was a lot cheaper than it had been the year before. So that sort of sums up Bryony, really. She's always looking for a good deal, and she's always project managing, and she does it very well. Yes, she did get a good deal with you, Jeremy.
She's getting to that.
She's getting to that. So, of course, we then, at this diving club, she met another chap, Jeremy, who's also a very keen diver, qualified diver. And the diving club became even more important to her. So it was quite interesting. We'd heard all about him, but we'd never met Jeremy. And so the night turned out that we were about to meet him. And we got very excited. Debbie had cleaned the house out. The cats, the dog, and myself had to keep on the move. Otherwise, we'd been hoovered as well. And there was a lovely meal in the oven, and we were all prepared to meet Jeremy because it was obviously getting quite serious, this. Anyway, the phone went. so sorry, stuck in heavy traffic, we're going to be at least another couple of hours. So the meal came out of the oven and we sat there thinking, oh. 2 minutes later, Jeremy walks around the corner with a big grin on his face saying, only joking, Bryony put me up to it. So I thought, oh, we're going to have trouble here, I can see that.
I do remember that.
Anyway, so Jeremy just fitted in fantastically straight away into the family. So easy to get on with, and actually jolly useful because he's a tremendous handyman. He can turn his hand to just about anything. So when he arrives now, we have a list of jobs to do, and you'd expect it from someone who studied civil engineering and indeed got a first. How about that? So we've got a bright couple here, we really do. But anyway, all went well until one day we got a call. And it said that unfortunately Jeremy had had a very bad motorbike accident and had been airlifted to Addenbrooke's Hospital. So this was really not good news. And so Debbie and I drove up to Cambridge, not really knowing what to expect. And that's where we first met Jeremy's parents, in the waiting room outside ITU in Addenbrooke's. It's not what you really have in mind, but of course they were in a real state, and we all were. Jeremy was really in quite a mess. But what I did do was we learned a lot about Jeremy's character actually over this, because when the doctor said, Jeremy, you're going to have to do 25 of these every day to get better, Jeremy would do 225 of them every day. And it sums him up too. He is amazing. He never complained. He had quite a long convalescence, but now he's back to full health. And as long as you don't have to go through an airport with him, you really wouldn't know that he'd had this accident at all. And luckily, the motorbike's gone for the time being. Now, Bryony always said that she was actually going to marry an Irish rugby international. And she said this for many, many years. Well, actually, when you think about it, he's dark and swarthy.
The best man's job, right?
He also, if his stag week has anything to go by, can slot a beer or two down, and he's certainly and he's obviously got enough broken bones to qualify as a rugby international too. So you nearly did it, Squidge. You nearly did it. Now, just before I finish and sit down, it's a very good opportunity, apparently, for the father of the bride to actually ask for forgiveness on things that went a bit wrong in her upbringing. So I've got two that I'd like to ask for. One is, will you please forgive me for the time that I put you in a wheelie bin in France and shut the lid down? It really wasn't good parenting, I admit it. But you really were being a pain. The other thing that I'd like to ask forgiveness for is the time that you woke up to find your father at the end of your bed with no clothes on and a double-barreled 12-bore shotgun in his hand. She was really very shocked. No, it's not what you think, diving club. It really isn't. No, we had free-range chickens, and the fox was coming every morning, and her bedroom had the best view over the garden to try and get this fox. Honestly, that's my excuse. So just to be serious, Bryony, it was amazing walking you down the aisle earlier on today. Very emotional. And I have to say, you look absolutely stunningly beautiful. And Debbie and I really couldn't be more proud of you. We just particularly love the way you've taken life by the scruff of the neck, and you've lived it to the full. You are such a doer, and it's just fabulous to see you so happy with Jeremy, and what a great couple you make. And on that note, I'd just love you all to stand to drink Bryony and Jeremy's, wishing them for the very best in the future. Bryony and Jeremy. Bryony and Jeremy. Thank you. You next?
Well, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Firstly, thank you to Pete for those lovely words. I'm not really sure how I'm going to follow them, especially as you'll probably all be surprised to know that Bryony has entrusted me completely to write this speech. It's only taken me about 5 months to string a few coherent sentences together, so please bear with me and let's hope I make Bryony proud. So ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, it gives me great pleasure to say on behalf of my wife and I, welcome. Welcome to our wedding. Firstly, we would like to thank everyone here for their kind warmness since we got engaged and for being here to share this special day with us. Being a bit of a geek, I calculated that people have travelled a combined distance of over 40,000 miles to be here today, which demonstrates 2 things. Firstly, that Bryony didn't trust me with any real wedding jobs. But more importantly, that we do appreciate all the effort people have made to be here today. It means everything to share this day with those that mean the most to us. So thank you. A special thank you to everyone that has helped out with the preparations of this, fantastic venue. You've worked so hard, and we couldn't have done it without you, and we can't thank you enough. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please raise a glass for the first toast of the evening. It's to all of you, everyone here, to friends and family.
Friends and family.
Next, we would like to thank our parents. Firstly, Debbie and Pete. We both want to thank you for making this day possible. Your support has been amazing, and we couldn't have done it without you. I personally want to thank you for welcoming me into the family. You've always treated me as one of your own, and it honestly feels like I've known you forever. I also wanted to thank you for promoting me to that chief handyman of the family. Whenever a vaguely engineering-related issue occurs at Common Cottage, I know my place. But when I say engineering, what I really mean is fixing doors, demolishing trampolines, fixing multiple vacuum cleaners, and sorry Pete, even replacing light bulbs. I am glad that my degree finally came in handy, because I don't use it at work. I can't let today go by without thanking my own parents. Mum, Dad, thank you for all the support you've given me over the years, for pointing me in the right direction and for the great start in life. Both our parents have been married for a remarkable 33 years this year. Good coincidence. And Bryony and I thank you both for just being great examples and one we hope to follow. And so for the second toast of the evening, ladies and gentlemen, please raise a glass to our parents. To our parents. Now to the groomsmen and bridesmaids. Firstly, Andrew and Dave, who are ushers today. Now, everyone knows that the main role of the ushers is to make me look good. And although I feel that this was a particularly easy thing for you to achieve, I wanted to thank you all the same. On a more personal note, I wanted to say I feel privileged to have been your friends for so long. To our brothers Gareth and Sam, who are also ushers, we wanted to thank you for always believing in us, for being great brothers, and for all the fantastic memories we shared together. Bryony and I would like to say a massive thank you to our bridesmaids, Vanessa, Becky, Emily and Samantha. Thank you for all the support you have given Bryony with the wedding, for looking so fabulous today, and for organising such a fantastic hen do. And on that subject, a special thank you for me for selecting a life model that didn't put me to shame. Too much. We would also like to give praise to our flower girls, Matilda and Tosca. Yeah. You look adorable today, and thank you for doing such a great job. So ladies and gentlemen, please raise a glass to our bridesmaids, flower girls and groomsmen. I'm not going to drink it. And now to the important bit. to Bryony. This beautiful woman next to me is now my wife, and doesn't she look incredible? Come on. Just keep it going. I thought I'd now take a few moments to enlighten you all on how we got together. Any single men take notes, this is a masterclass. The first time Brian and I met was at a university windsurfing event, so I'd had a little bit too much to drink the night before, and so I was not my cheery self. Yeah, that took a while to sink in. Towards the end of that day, I asked Bryony's flatmate to pass my number on to Bryony. She never did. I can't imagine why. But as you may know, I can be a little persistent. And Bryony did agree, voluntarily, to a first date. For this, I took Bryony to an exclusive cocktail bar. But little did I know, it happened to be gay night. Thanks, Tom, for that one. Always trying to stitch me up. Things didn't go totally to plan when I asked Bryony to go out with me. Slightly tipsy, I accidentally said the wrong girl's name, saying my best man's girlfriend's name instead. Thankfully, a mistake I avoided today. Told you it was a masterclass. But Bryony, there are of course plenty of stories after those early days that show you exactly why we were supposed to be together, and I wanted to share one with you now. I had just been involved in my motorcycle accident, and in that moment all I could think about was you and how it would affect you. I wanted you to be the first to know and not to worry. I think in moments like that you learn a lot about what truly matters in life. And at that moment, with all that was happening around me, it became clear to me that you really were my world. And at the same time, a glimpse of what it was like to be without you. It was at that point I knew we were meant for each other. During my recovery, Bryony showed exactly why I love her. I have never known anyone to put the interests of others before their own like Bryony does. She is selfless, kind and loyal. I can honestly say that being with Bryony has made me a better person. We'll get there. It's going well. I think, anyway. So for this and much more, I wanted to give Bryony a gift. Bryony, your favourite place in the world is Cornwall, right? That's good. So I have a gift for you. So I'll give Bryony a moment to look at that. So for all those who can't see it, and that's all of you, and if Bryony hasn't quite worked out what it is yet, have you?
Yeah.
You have, good. It is a painting of the cliff top we got engaged in Cornwall. Don't drop that.
Brilliant.
So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the most important toast of the evening. To my wife, my world, to Bryony. We're nearly done. Last but by no means least, I wanted to thank my best men, who are of course Kieran and Richard. If you don't personally know them, you're very lucky. Between them, they have been there without question through every step of my life. Gents, I could have not have asked for better friends, and although I can never repay you for all you've done for me, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you both. I'm truly honoured you accepted to be my best men. Now, all that is left for me to do is to hand over to them. And at which point I should be telling you they're both compulsive liars. But for those that know me, I fear there isn't much point. I'm an expert at embarrassing myself. Mankini on the stag do. And I can only imagine the most important part of writing their speeches was picking the most appropriate stories for this special child-friendly occasion. I hope for your sake they've Picked well. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you all once again for coming. We hope you have a great evening. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Yeah. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name's Richard. I'm half of Jeremy's best man's team, as he's mentioned, along with Kieran. And I have the difficult task today of trying to tell you what a great guy Jeremy is, and how lucky Brian is to have married him. But despite what he says, I'm not actually a liar, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to turn it around and say how lucky how lucky Jeremy is to have Bryony. And I'd just like to start by saying how amazing she looks tonight. I'm sure you'd all agree. And we did our best with Jeremy, and we hope he's all right. But in all seriousness, it's been a great day, a great ceremony, and I'm really, really pleased she asked me to be part of it. We all know it's down to Bryony and her organisation skills, and without my laminated card, I wouldn't have got through the day. That plus the 15-page spreadsheet of jobs we all cracked on with yesterday. She very wisely, though, kept Jeremy's input down to the music, but I know his taste, so I just want to apologise on his behalf for any terrible tunes that I played later this evening. But no, thanks a lot, and thanks for inviting us all to celebrate with you. I've really enjoyed it. Moving on to how I know the couple. I've known Jeremy a long time, but Bryony maybe 5 years now. I remember the first time I met her, Jeremy brought her to visit when we were at university. She looked amazing then too. So much so that my housemates, who had the misfortune of already knowing Jeremy, and conveniently nicknamed him Richard's grumpy friend, spent the whole weekend cheering my ear off saying, how has this guy got such a girl? I've known him 28 years. I had nothing. I looked at this guy who had a DIY haircut he'd given himself. He was wearing a jumper he'd stolen from the Lost and Found at our first job at 16. And I knew it was luck. There was no charm, just right place, right time. Pure luck for Jeremy. But despite that grumpy reputation, he's actually quite a popular guy, hence the two best men. And when he asked me, it was a real honour. I set about making a list in my lunchtime and free time of all the kind of anecdotes from our childhood. And that's when Bryony gave me her one rule, which was don't make him look terrible. And I realised I'd been given an impossible task, so I roped in Samantha and said, help. Go through my list and tell me what I can say without ruining that one rule. So we deleted about 90% of our childhood. And there's a few stories I can say today. But as I mentioned, we've known each other a long time. We were born in the same hospital in the same week and grew up in the same village just a few roads apart. And apart from a few years when I lived in Texas and managed to ditch him, we spent most of our time hanging out together or at school together, where the poor teachers spent most of their time trying to separate us. And it was pretty unfair on them, as we spent more than our fair time in detention or standing outside the class or in trouble some way or another. On a few occasions, they were right to worry. Jeremy and I were partners in crime when we were suspended for selling sweets. Sweets and cans of pop out of our school bags at lunchtime, which we made £30 an hour each. You know, it's not a bad rate. But they didn't see it as entrepreneurial. They saw it as criminal and, and sent us home. They were also right to worry when we got caught riding my moped when we were far too young around the local villages and fields. But I will agree with them there, because my co-pilot was the only guy who ever failed the cycling proficiency test. But they didn't manage. They did their best, but they didn't keep us apart, and we've stayed friends ever since. Like I say, 28 years. And it's been a great transformation watching us go from the guys outside the class, you know, wannabe skater dudes, to professional engineers. And I'm really pleased to say that we've made it through, and it's great watching you grow up. My sisters are both older, and they've seen me and Jeremy through all the years, and they're still baffled. They don't get how it happened. And one of their memories, I asked them about this when writing the speech, was they caught Jeremy and I cutting the hedge at my parents' house with our own method, which is where Jeremy held the hedge trimmer at arm's length, and I propped him on my shoulders, and then just ran up and down the garden next to the hedge. We did it in a record time, took the pocket money, and then went with our fake IDs and bought more booze than we could handle. in preparation for a garden party that I was throwing that summer. Here, I stupidly gave Jeremy the keys to my house. I thought I could trust him. I'll probably have one too many. He's the sensible one. And it was an absolute mistake. Within minutes, my useless bouncer came back with his shirt up, covered in kisses, and telling me how he'd sold the keys to my house in exchange for these kisses from a few drunk girls. And he was trying to convince me, it's okay, it's a great deal, When my mum came back from work that day, it wasn't so easy to convince her as we sat there, hanging our heads, feeling worse for wear. But despite that performance, Jeremy still likes to insist he's the wiser one of the pair, as he is a whole 5 days older, and he still won't let me forget it. The only time I can recall when he has been the wiser one was when we bunked our chemistry exam to pick up our first car, which was a £25 Ford Escort, that he took the role of driving instructor to myself and Andrew, and the much older and wiser age of 16. A few weeks later, when we started working together, he definitely wasn't the wiser one. When on our first night as waiters at a local Holiday Inn, Jeremy managed to spill the order of hot mussels all over a baby's head. I'm hoping we won't see any repeats of that tonight. But so, as you can imagine, we weren't popular, and by association, we both got banished to polishing cutlery for about a month. It wasn't my best introduction to the working world. He topped it, though, when we were looking after a wedding, a similar size to this, and Jeremy took it upon himself to drop all of the wine flutes, all the champagne glasses, in the run-up for the speeches, as we quickly scrabbled around with mugs, trying to appease the party that he'd made a mess of. I don't know how we didn't get fired, and I don't really know why they kept paying us, but we were there for years. But funnily enough, Jeremy left the restaurant business, and after university, he went to a career that didn't involve carrying anything, and one that paid well enough to stick with his bargain bulk buying addiction. We all know he loves a deal, but I didn't realise how bad it was till I helped him move into the flat, and I spent the whole day carrying bags of coal upstairs to a flat that didn't have a garden for a barbecue he hadn't bought because the coal was on offer. What made it much worse was a year or two later, when I helped him move again, I carried the same coal back down the stairs. But despite being a bad influence and a little bit clumsy and obsessed with the bargain, he's been a great friend all these years. To see him with Bryony is to see him at his best, and I feel I can truly say that, having known him all my life. He's never been happier than he is with her. They're a great team, and I couldn't ask for anyone better by my buddy's side, especially when touched on during Jeremy's motorbike accident. Bryony took such great care of him, but not only did she look after Jeremy, she also looked after their flat and turned it into a home by keeping her own career on track to support the pair of them. So they're a great team, and I hope you'll all join me in wishing them a lifetime of happiness and adventure as Mr. and Mrs. Few.
Do you want to put that over your head? Thanks. Brilliant. Right. Well, first off, thank you very much. Bryony, you look absolutely beautiful, echoing everyone on the table of the speeches. I'm sure what you've all already thinking in your heads and what you've done and managed with the venue. It's absolutely beautiful. And Jeremy, thanks for turning up. That's actually unscripted as well, so we've got a laugh, which is good. So. And yeah, Jeremy, I kind of think that you've chosen me because I'm a little bit more sensible than this man here, and some of the stories won't come out, but I don't know. We'll find out. But for the rest of you, you'll be pleased to know that I am the final obstacle between yourself and the final meal. So for those that get hunger grumps, Jeremy, just hold on a little bit. Hold on, it'll be fine. So for those who don't know me, my name has been mentioned about 4 or 5 times now. I am Kieran, so it's a pleasure to meet you all. So Jeremy and I met at university when we both joined Cardiff Scuba Club. So it was in the third year, wasn't it? It was in our third year. So he's been quite careful though, and he's selected individuals. He says that it's the whole life, but there is actually a gap of about 2 or 3 years. So I believe Tom, I think if you want to go find Tom later, I think he might know some of the stories. So just find him at the bar, maybe buy him a drink at the free bar, I don't know. But there's some stories that I'm sure can come out then. So we had a whole year together before Bryony came on the scene. It was wonderful and beautiful. I saw a little bit of what you saw. He changed quite somewhat. But we were like brothers. Many of us actually thought we were lovers, didn't they? That was mentioned a few times. So finally, this day can put an end to those rumours. So I can move on with my life now. So I'm quite pleased about that. So when I got asked to be best man, I was quite nervous and I'm a little bit shaky. But the reason I'm really shaking is I'm actually a little bit nervous for Jeremy, because I am under explicit instructions. We both had the same explicit instructions to make it not look like a mistake. So, but here goes anyway. So my first impressions of Jeremy were strong-willed, not afraid to speak his mind, and not willing to be told what to do by anyone, which is all the traits that need to be removed before he became suitable husband material. So, I didn't even rip that from the internet. I was quite pleased with that. I knew from our first few days together, though, that we were going to be friends for life, because someone who can teach you how to wheel spin, he probably did it with a few guys. A transit van full of scuba gear is a friend for life. And he kept a few bits through on, didn't he? It's good. So as you have already heard from Jeremy, Bryony's first impression of him is slightly different to mine. But what Jeremy seemed to gloss over, he did it quite, one or two sentences, maybe one sentence, is just how hungover and grumpy he actually was. I think to the extent, so you're just sitting on the side, you weren't actually doing windsurfing. So it was at a windsurfing event. So this is Jeremy. Jeremy was single at the time, so we were trying to, not we. He. Got that? Have you got that? So he was just sort of, trying to make some friends and stuff like that. But he was just a mess. He was an absolute mess, not doing anything, not really participating at all in the windsurfing. And it's not really a surprise that the number was never passed on. But Jeremy soon won Bryony over and changed her impressions. And when Bryony agreed to go out with him, I've never seen a bigger smile on his face. Here's the smile that we see today. Oh, it's nice, isn't it? Probably because he met someone who could cook, enjoyed scuba diving, and cleans up after him. That's quite important for the next bit. That was funny. So since leaving university, we remained good friends, and we've been on many holidays together, including the Red Sea. I'd like to share more, but I had to take that story out as the speech had to be cleaned up, just like Jeremy had to be in that fateful day. But I've got a little something just in case it's all a bit too much later, so if you can pass that down to him just for later on. But we can talk about Europe. We did a few holidays together, so we can talk about Europe. So we'll move on to that one. And for somebody who goes to the length of removing LEDs from extension leads, so he does do this, he's done it a few times to save money. Yeah. Jeremy was not best pleased when we had to fork out over £600 to the Swiss police, each that was, £600 each, for simply turning around in a tunnel. I don't really get it, I don't understand, but that's what we had to do. Anyway, got carted off to the police station, but, paid the fines, it's fine. We just can't go back for another 2 years, I think, isn't it? Yeah, we are on probation, so never mind. It's fair to say that both our grumpy old man traits came out that afternoon, and for Bryony still to manage to get a smile by the end of that day shows the strength of their relationship. So thanks, because that was a terrible afternoon. It really was. I'm sure you all agree that today's been fantastic so far, and is testament to the hard work, meticulous planning, and I've got by Bryony and Jeremy, but I really should have scrubbed that out. Although, and I'm only speculating here, but did you have anything to do with the booking of the venue or church? I guess not, yeah, because I have a feeling if we would all be sat outside somebody else's wedding if you actually did. So let me explain. So it was back in early 2013, and Jeremy was doing what I thought at the time a fantastic job at organising our very first ski trip together. He had sorted the accommodation, bus transfers, and even the flights, which is where the trouble began. It was a week before we were leaving, and then I got a phone call one evening from Jeremy, and Jeremy wasn't very happy. So hopefully you can tell by now that there's a bit of a theme. But honestly, he's a good guy, he's fine. You just get to know him, he's fine, don't worry. So you just come off the phone to Ryanair after having a half-hour heated discussion about not being able to check in for the upcoming flight. The conversation quickly ended, and I mean quickly, when Jeremy realised the flight he had booked had actually departed a month before. And yet again, Brian had to come in and save the day. So thanks for driving us to Birmingham. Because we had a good trip, it was good. So basically what I am saying, Bryony, and as shown by this, you are in charge of all future arrangements, and I'm just glad that Jeremy's job doesn't involve organisation or management. And for those that actually know his job, he is a project manager. So no best man speech would be complete without some mention of the stag do. And not content with a single night of debauchery, Jeremy insisted on an extended weekend away. So knowing that Jeremy wasn't that keen on Eastern Europe and has his self-diagnosed allergy to alcohol, it seemed ideal to take him to Latvia for the cheap booze and cheap... Well, anyway, moving on. So there's not much I can say here, as what happens on a stag stays on a stag. But it is safe to say that it involved in diving, so just be sure to ask about the diving that was involved. Some cheeky antics as well, if not, just see that man there. You've got some photos, lovely. And a permanent mark on Jeremy, though I am hoping for your sake that your belt stays on tonight. It seems from this speech that Jeremy is a grumpy old man most of the time. But rest assured, as long as you feed him regularly, a burger with the ketchup on being his favourite, and never toad in the hole. Make sure he gets to bed by 10 o'clock, which will probably be happening now. Talk about his previous job with O2, and don't squeeze his bag. Tea bag, I mean. I don't know what you're thinking. Then it really is quite simple to keep him happy. So it is customary to wish the bride and groom the best of luck in the future at this point, but I do not feel this is necessary, as I am confident they will have a long and lasting marriage together, as they have already gone through and survived tough times as a team. And with that, could I ask everyone to stand and raise your glasses to Mr. and Mrs. Few. There we go.